11 kings, with the most bizarre habits in history. Kings have ruled empires, led armies, and shaped the destinies of entire nations. But behind the thrones, inside the grand palaces and royal courts, some of them harbored secrets so bizarre, so eccentric, that they seem more like characters from dark fairy tales than real-life monarchs. From drinking mercury in pursuit of immortality to believing they were made of glass, these rulers defied all logic. Here are 11 of the strangest, most surreal royal habits ever recorded in human history. 1. Charles VI of France. The king who thought he was made of glass, Charles VI, also known as Charles the Mad, ruled France during one of its most tumultuous periods. But while his kingdom struggled, Charles battled a strange delusion. He believed his body was made of glass. He was so terrified of shattering that he wore reinforced clothing lined with iron rods or padded with straw. He forbade people from touching him, fearing even the lightest contact would break his fragile form. He would sit motionless for hours, avoiding sudden movements, and would sometimes cry out in terror if someone approached too quickly. The king's attendants had to be constantly vigilant, ensuring no one startled or brushed against him. This delusion persisted for years, making governance nearly impossible and leaving his court in constant unease. 2. Ludwig II of Bavaria. The fairy tale king who lived in a dream, Ludwig II, often referred to as the Swan King, or the fairy tale king, was more interested in music and fantasy than ruling his kingdom. Obsessed with the works of composer Richard Wagner, Ludwig spent much of his reign constructing extravagant castles straight out of fairy tales. The most famous of these, Neuschwanstein, inspired Disney's Sleeping Beauty castle, but Ludwig's eccentricity went far beyond architecture. He insisted on dining alone at a massive table more than 90 feet long, pretending to host grand banquets attended only by empty chairs. He slept during the day and stayed awake all night, wandering his candlelit halls while speaking to imaginary guests and reenacting scenes from Wagner. Eventually, his ministers declared him insane and removed him from power. Just days later, he was found dead under mysterious circumstances in a lake, adding yet another layer of eerie legend to his already surreal legacy. 3. Caligula, Rome's mad emperor who married his horse. Caligula is perhaps the most infamous Roman emperor when it comes to insanity and cruelty. Among his many eccentricities, none stand out more than his obsession with his horse. He built the animal a marble stall, adorned it with jewels, and allegedly planned to make it a consular, top-ranking political office in Rome. But Caligula's madness didn't end there. He declared himself a living god and forced senators to worship him. He threw lavish banquets where he mocked his guests and had people executed for minor offenses or simply because he was bored. According to legend, he once made his soldiers collect sea, calling them spoils of war from a campaign against Neptune, the god of the sea. Eventually, his reign became too chaotic even for Rome, and he was assassinated by members of his own guard. 4. Henry VIII, the gluttonous tyrant of England, famous for his 6 marriages and break from the Catholic Church, Henry VIII was also a man of extreme appetites. He indulged in feasts so excessive that he became morbidly obese, requiring custom-built chairs and mechanical lifts to move around. His diet included endless amounts of roasted meats, pies, and wine. It's said that his servants had to carry him around the palace on special platforms. Beyond his gluttony, Henry was violently paranoid. He executed close advisors, friends, and even 2 of his wives, often based on flimsy accusations of betrayal or infidelity. Courtiers lived in constant fear of saying the wrong word or being seen with the wrong expression, knowing it could cost them their lives. 5. Ibrahim, the first of the Ottoman Empire. The Sultan obsessed with smell and fish. After spending most of his early life imprisoned in the caves, Ibrahim I ascended the throne emotionally and mentally unstable. He developed a strange obsession with smells, particularly those of rotting fish. He ordered entire rooms to be filled with dead sea creatures and would sit inside, inhaling the stench for hours. He also had an unhealthy fascination with women. He once selected 280 concubines from his harem and ordered them all drowned in the Bosphorus after a fit of jealousy. His erratic behavior earned him the nickname Ibrahim the Mad, and he was eventually deposed by his own family and executed. 6. Christian VII of Denmark. The masturbating monarch, Christian VII ascended the throne as a teenager and quickly became known for his unpredictable and bizarre behavior. He openly admitted to frequent, obsessive masturbation even during official meetings. He would fidget constantly, speak nonsensically, and laugh at inappropriate times. Rather than rule, Christian spent his time playing with puppets, running through the palace halls, and mocking his ministers. Real power eventually passed to his physician and stepmother, who governed on his behalf. Despite his title, Christian became little more than a tragic footnote in Danish royal history. 7. Peter the Great of Russia. The Tsar who loved dissecting corpses, Peter the Great was a reformer, a modernizer, and a ruler who dragged Russia into the modern age, but he also had a dark and macabre hobby. He loved dissecting human bodies. Fascinated by medicine and anatomy, Peter would attend autopsies, perform dissections himself, and even personally execute criminals to later study their bodies. He kept jars of human organs in his personal study, and would sometimes bring guests in to show them his collection. One story claims he forced his wife to keep the preserved head of her lover in a jar, as a reminder of her betrayal. 8. Tsar Paul I of Russia. The paranoid dictator Paul I was obsessed with military discipline. He forced his courtiers to wear Prussian-style uniforms and banned common items such as round hats and umbrellas. Simply because he disliked them, he would often wake his soldiers in the middle of the night for surprise drills and He was convinced that he was constantly being watched and plotted against. He redesigned his palace with escape tunnels and secret doors. Eventually, his paranoia became so unbearable to those around him that he was murdered in his own bedroom by a group of nobles. 9. Emperor Qin Shi Huang, the tyrant who sought immortality. The first emperor of a unified China, Qin Shi Huang, was obsessed with the idea of living forever. He sent expeditions across the seas in search of the mythical elixir of life and hired alchemists to create immortality potions. Ironically, many of these potions contained mercury, which ultimately poisoned him. He also built a massive underground mausoleum guarded by the terracotta army, a force of over 8,000 clay soldiers meant to protect him in the afterlife. His quest for eternal life may have hastened his death, but it left behind one of the most astonishing archaeological discoveries in history. 10. King Farouk of Egypt. The kleptomaniac king Farouk I, the last ruling king of Egypt, had a peculiar habit. He loved to steal. Despite being fabulously wealthy, he would pocket silverware, watches, and even antiques from his own palace. He once stole Winston Churchill's pocket watch and was known to rob tourists and dignitaries during state dinners. He also hoarded bizarre collections, including 300,000 coins, pornographic postcards, and a giant collection of Coca-Cola memorabilia. His behavior embarrassed the nation, and he was eventually overthrown in a military coup in 1952. Onzi Juan II of Portugal, the kingi, who drank poison, hoping to live forever. João II was terrified of death and obsessed with extending his life. He believed in alchemical remedies and reportedly ingested dangerous concoctions made from mercury and lead, hoping they would grant him immortality rather than extend his life. These substances slowly destroyed his internal organs. His obsession with life and betrayal led him to execute noblemen without trial, and he trusted no one, not even his own family. His death was slow and agonizing, poisoned by the very potions he believed would make him eternal. Conclusion: history remembers kings for their victories, their reforms, and their legacies, but sometimes it also remembers their madness. These 11 rulers remind us that power, when mixed with obsession and unchecked eccentricity, can lead to truly bizarre behavior. From glass-bodied monarchs to horse-loving emperors, these stories blur the line between history and horror.